Well, hello there, and welcome to Roundtable. I'm your host, Adam Cook. On this week's show, we'll take you around the local business community as we visit the annual Spring Dinner and Awards Gala for the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre. And we'll also go round the Richmond Municipal Council table and catch you up on some items from the latest regular monthly meeting of County Council. You're going to hear the latest on an Arishat Sidewalk extension proposal and restoration efforts over at Pondville Beach. And we'll have a discussion about the way question periods are conducted at Richmond Council meetings. But we begin with some proposed rezoning that could have an impact on RV users in Richmond County, as well as those hoping to set up small-scale campgrounds. These proposed changes are coming to a public hearing in June. However, at first reading of these proposals at Richmond Council's latest regular meeting, there was some concern expressed by members of the public as to whether these changes are going to work out well for Almadam residents and the general public. So we begin with a rundown of exactly what these changes are going to mean, as taken from the latest Richmond regular council meeting that took place on May the 23rd.
And it is the first reading regarding the proposed amendments to the Almadam Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw to allow for small-scale campgrounds and recreational vehicles to be used as seasonal main dwellings or seasonal accessory dwellings as of right within the rural general zone and rural resource zone, and to insert accompanying definitions and to remove the requirement of having coverings for all windows to reduce light pollution. So I'll look for a motion to give first reading approval on that.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. This is an amendment to the Almadam planning strategy, so that's the region that it would cover. I think the Deputy Warden made a good point in the council meeting this evening, that in the discussions at the Planning Advisory Council table, they were very interested in making sure that they came up with a solution that would also potentially be able to be applied in other areas of the county as well, because as you know, there's still areas of our region that are unzoned, and so looking at something that maybe could consistently be applied as we work towards getting all areas zoned, which is a requirement of the municipalities, that the provincial government is requiring us to do that work. So there has been that part of the discussion going on. There's been a lot of discussion on, what does it mean to say small scale? What does it mean to say large scale? So I know that the committee worked really hard on trying to find a right size for Richmond County. And, there has been research done into other areas, but at the end of the day, Richmond County has unique characteristics, and we need to keep that in mind as well, right? So the first reading has passed this evening. There will be a second reading coming up in June, and a public hearing. So there will still be opportunity for the public to provide input and to ask questions. And I would really, really encourage folks that if they do have questions, you don't need to wait for the public hearing. Ask us in advance, and that way we can gather as much information and have it ready for when it comes time to making a final decision on this matter.
The public question period at the end of Monday's regular council meeting in Arishat suggested that there are still some questions left unanswered about this proposed bylaw amendment, and local landowners like Tom Stanton, who shares a property with his wife in Grand Lake, want to have those questions dealt with before and during the hearing process for the new bylaw amendment.
The reading of the bylaw regarding recreational vehicles on the Almadam, even though it's gone through first reading, is there still opportunity for public debate on that?
There will be a public hearing scheduled.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Get ready, because there's going to be lots.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
the bylaw, as it reads, I needed a lawyer to help me try and figure out what it actually said. And when I found out what it actually said, I had discussions with my neighbors on the lake, and a lot of people have no understanding what that means,
Yeah.
because it's very convoluting, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to question what it actually says. So in that public hearing, I think there has to be a lot of explanation, because I couldn't understand it at all.
If there's anything you'd like to share with us leading up to that public hearing, would encourage you to do that.
Okay.
And I also want to say that I recognize completely what you're saying about the legalese of some of these, of the more technical municipal land use planning documents. It
Yeah.
can be difficult for people to figure it out. It's difficult for me to figure it out,
Yeah.
so, and it's part of the reason why, although I'm not on Planning Advisory Committee technically, I attend almost every meeting because I feel like I need to, it's the only way I can fully get a grasp of what's being discussed. I need to hear the discussion as well as see
Yeah.
the print, right? So anything you'd like to share in advance, and
Okay.
and you'd be encouraged to participate in the public hearing, that's what it's for. But definitely, if you would like to share information in advance, be happy to receive
Yeah,
it.
like I said, I've had discussions
Yeah.
with some of my neighbors, and there's no, it says this, no, it actually says this, and then we're just kind of doing one of these, and that gonna get kind of messy, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, and that's the point of the hearing, right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you might be able to provide clarification on some of those, if you have questions that you're unaware of, or really, we can, you might be able to get clarification through the clerk or John Main or
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
committee
if you want
prior
to
prior
email.
to
Yeah.
Yeah,
the discussion, and then
Because the thing is, yeah, well, but for the public hearings, yeah, you can submit ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Encouraged to,
and when are those going to be?
so potentially June 23rd is
Yeah.
the.
Okay,
but once
Subject to
that's
change.
confirmed, it'll be
Right.
publicly advertised, so definitely stay tuned, yeah.
great.
Bit of a warning during question period from one of the property owners that there could be some blowback to this. Are you concerned, or are you just basically open to public discussion of this issue?
Honestly, open to public discussion. The bottom line is that there are folks on all sides of this debate, right? And, as much as we're looking for a right size for Richmond County, I think we need to recognize that there's no way to find a solution that's going to make every single person happy, because some people feel that there should be fewer RVs on a property, and others feel there should be allowances for more. And there are extremely valid reasons on all sides of those points. And I know, I can absolutely see those two differing perspectives, and I completely understand them, and they're valid. So I think we need to be making sure that we listen to the public feedback that we get, and take that into account in our final decision. And I was really glad that the member of the public came here this evening to ask about opportunities for public debate, because it's important. And I encouraged him, and I would encourage other folks, that whatever you can provide us with in advance in terms of concerns or information, please feel free to do so that we can do the best job possible. So.
And as Council prepares for a public hearing on the issue in June, prior to the official second reading of the bylaw amendments, Council's responses to the inquiries of another attendee at the regular meeting of Richmond Council on Monday gave the impression that there is still some homework to be done both at the municipal level and with the Eastern District Planning Commission.
My question is whether or not the policy change for Alma Dam is in keeping with the norms in other areas of the province.
Okay, so I would look to you as the chair, or maybe we need to get some staff.
it was, yeah, I
input
know
on
we
that?
had discussion about where there isn't zoning yet in the rest of the county, for instance, but oftentimes when this came up, people wanted something that was gonna be consistent, basically going forward. It was started through basically a complaint process here in this zone, so that's being addressed. The hope was that it would be something that would make sense for the whole county and could be looked at when the zoning comes into the rest of the county
Yeah.
through the Plan Richmond.
But in terms of outside of Richmond County, we may have to go back to the Planning
Well,
Commission for that
there-
information.
There was
Right.
information gathered from other, like EDPC gathered information from elsewhere to try and come up with solutions on that, because it's been
Right,
a year and a half or so this has been ongoing,
yeah.
probably. Yeah, it was before last summer anyway. It's been at least a year, if not more.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can take that question back, Lisa, and get a more definitive answer. And then what we do with I should have mentioned this earlier as well, what we've been doing with our question period is any questions that are asked in public, we make sure the answer comes back in public so that everybody gets a chance to see that.
What substantiates a mini campground? And is it based on any size of lot, as the old bylaw would apply to any landowner?
Small scale had to do with, I think the final limit was 5 or less, and large scale was above that. However, there is differences based on if some of these are placed there what you would call semi-permanently, like we discussed, whether or not they were plated, sort of registered and insured, because some of these are set up, especially park models, for instance. I've seen some with a roof built over them, or a deck or so on that. So they're being looked at as these aren't moving, basically, right? They're considered, I believe it was semi-permanent. They're gonna have to, I believe even at that, they have to provide information on it to the planning commission, because there was some of it that read to do with providing photos and so on, and just the condition of the exterior, and so to deal with unsightly. There was a whole list of things, but the number that was stopped or settled at was 5 or less was small scale, and 6 or more would be considered large scale.
And the size of the lot tied to that?
There was, I don't know that it was, but there was some discussion about distance between them, and the distance between them had more to do with fire safety. He had found, I believe Mr. Bain had found that distance somewhere else, but
But we can,
There was no tie-in to the size of the lot.
there was discussion of that, but I don't know offhand what,
we'd have to double
What the
check
final-
the details, so
yeah.
we can get back to you on
Yeah.
that one too.
because there was talk about how, technically, yeah, a much larger lot may accommodate more spaced out by, quite a bit. Whereas a small little lot, if they were all sort of packed on top of one another, it's a different situation. But I don't know offhand what the final square footages were, or if there is a lot size determination on it. I'd have to refer back.
If there is a separation for fire protection, then that would probably alleviate the size of the lot. So if it's maximum of 5 and it's minimum 100 feet in between, I'm just
No, it
picking
was-
numbers.
But it was something like 15 feet or something.
Okay,
It
but,
wasn't-
yeah, so regardless, I guess if it's maximum 5 and it's 15 feet, then regardless, if the lot didn't meet that standard, then you couldn't have the 5, you might be able to have 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
If you
so if you
couldn't-
can only provide 10 feet in between
Yeah,
the,
because your lot wasn't big enough.
because your lot wasn't
then
big
you
enough,
couldn't
then
meet that standard
then you
anyway.
can't meet that
Yeah.
standard.
And now we have an update for you on restoration efforts at Pondville Beach Provincial Park. As you've seen by watching previous episodes of Roundtable and Telil 24/7, the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables is launching a management plan that will involve community consultations over the coming weeks and months. Richmond Municipal Council is putting together correspondence to the department and to Richmond MLA Trevor Boudreau to try to figure out how the county can be involved in the management plan strategy and how it can bring the concerns of a local community campaign to the department. We're going to have comments from Richmond Warden Amanda Mombourquette shortly, but you're also going to hear some footage from Council's latest regular monthly meeting on May 23rd, including an audience reaction to the issue coming up and getting passed at the Committee of the Whole report. Let's go to Deputy Warden Brent Sampson for that.
The committee discussed the infrastructure needs of the Pondville Beach Provincial Park. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole for council to draft a letter with input from the Save Pondville Beach Provincial Park Group to the MLA and the Minister to address the infrastructure needs of the Pondville Beach Provincial Park.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion on that item? Okay. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. So staff did meet with some representatives from the group, and they do have a list of items that we're going to want to include in that letter. At this stage of the game, though, we needed to ratify the motion this evening because it did come from a committee of the whole. So now that that's done, we'll be able to get on top of that and get a letter out to the minister. I think we decided the letter would be step one, and I believe the CAO has from the memo, he's met with representatives from the group and has a list of kind of deficiencies that we wanted to have looked at. So that letter will be well underway now that the motion's been ratified at this meeting. Is there any other discussion on this correspondence we need tonight?
No, I'm just wondering if for those people who haven't heard the letter or read the letter, if it's possible, is that somewhere we can post that within our,
Yeah.
and it doesn't be
Pop it
posted
up
right
on
on our,
social media.
on it, but can it be put, like, is it within our minutes of our council meeting, I guess, anywhere, if somebody went to.
Well,
look
it's
for it.
within our meeting, our public meeting package for tonight.
Yeah, I have to have your permission to.
Yeah, we could pop it on social media. Is that what you mean? Like,
Yeah, well,
for
I
folks to
just,
be able to see
because
it?
it's a huge.
So do you mean our letter or the letter that's provided here? You mean the one that we wrote?
The one that we wrote.
Okay, so when we put that together, and which we
Yeah.
will be able to now, right? So, yeah, we could certainly circulate that. It'll be, yeah, that's a great idea. It was a great suggestion from Councillor Digdon to also pop that letter online, so folks in the group can get a chance to see it and look at what we put together. And, just as a reminder, the reason we're going this route is because the county doesn't have any ownership of any of that property. It is provincially owned, and so we're going to do that advocacy piece because, I really, when you look at what this group is trying to achieve, like, they're just doing everything right. They're getting the petition on the go. They're contacting their local MLAs. They're getting the support of their municipal council. It's a great example of all the things you can achieve when a community comes together. It's awesome.
And that group is going to be a part of putting that letter together, I understand?
Yes.
Their input's going to be involved?
Yes, so like I said, they've provided some detail to our CAO, and from there, he and I will craft the letter, and we'll get that off probably in the next week or so.
Our local business community was on display this past Wednesday evening at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre as the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce held its annual Spring Dinner and Awards Gala. This is one of 2 awards galas that the Chamber holds every year, the other being in October during Small Business Week. This time around, there were nominees for the awards that had an impact on our community, both in terms of industrial work and even things like radio broadcasting over the past half century. Let's take you to the Bearhead Conference Room at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre right now and see what all the fuss is all about at the Chamber's annual Spring Dinner and Awards Gala. The Spring Dinner and Annual General Meeting for the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce saw a changing of the guard of sorts, as Misty McDonald, the former executive director for the Chamber, had stepped down at the end of March. So this was the first public event for the new executive director for the Chamber of Commerce, Tanya Felix, a longtime member of economic development organizations around the Strait area and beyond.
What an honor it is for me to stand with our approximately 380 members. In this transition, in the last month, I replaced Misty McDonald, who has been a tremendous support in this changeover and has led the Chamber through the uncertainty of the pandemic. And I also want to note that Misty did not do this work alone. And I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the work of Susan Fox. Susan is our membership. Susan is our membership services and events coordinator, to all who know her. And during this time and since my arrival, Susan thoroughly supports each member, large and small. She's so thoughtful and pulls each little detail together to create beautiful events like this evening's dinner and awards. Thank you, Susan, for all that you do. In the past year, as the impact of COVID has lessened, the Chamber's getting back to the business of advocacy, support, and hosting events. The 2022 AGM was the first in-person AGM since 2019. And although the Fall Golf Classic got pushed ahead a few weeks because of Fiona, they had one of the largest numbers of teams attended. The Fall 2022 showed us without a doubt that people are ready to get out and reconnect. Our 375 Celtic Oktoberfest tickets sold out in just 5 hours, so I highly recommend that if you'd like to go again this year to have your phone on speed dial. And we have our largest attendance at the Fall Awards dinner with 195 people attending. Our online Christmas raffle was down a bit this year, and we're going to revisit how best to hold this important fundraiser. March saw the State of the Strait business update bring our largest crowd as well, with over 160 people joining us for that event. Throughout the past year, the Chamber continued to advocate for business and participate on committees and organizations that were focused on issues around healthcare recruitment, tourism, housing, immigration, port development, our natural resources, and exploring the potential of offshore wind. We continue to work in these areas and will work together to prepare to realize the potential of this beautiful area, making it and working towards making it one of the best places to live, work, and invest. Thank you to all members of this Chamber family for your support and engagement, and the greater community in general for all the support that you provide to us.
In everything we do, we rely heavily on the experience and expertise of our Board of Directors. And this year we have a few members leaving the board, and we'd like to acknowledge them. Alana Bowman, Cody McKeegan, Ash Young, and Jeff Stanley. Our outgoing board members have contributed so much over the years. We are truly grateful for their support. So I would ask our past president and chair of the nominating committee, Dean Hart, to introduce our 2023-2024 board members.
So our president, John Ouellette with Bell Canada, is here with us tonight on our board executive. Our first vice president, Yvonne McDonald with Scotiabank. Second vice president, David Greenwell, M3D Designs. Secretary, Haida McGuinness with Port Hawkesbury Paper. Our past president, myself, Dean Hart, in Hilltop Environmental Solutions and Bearhead Energy. Treasurer, Kevin McCachran with Acadia Broadcasting. Board members for the 2023-24 board for the Strait Area Chamber. Heather Austin Coulomb, farmer's daughter. George Youssef, A1 Pizza. Tyler Mathis, Cape Breton Partnership. Vivek Saxena, Nova Scotia Community College. Brian Bona, Strait Supplies. Diana Poirier, Rock Society. Jeremy Carroll, Lakeside Luxury Domes, Cape Breton Fabrication Inc. David Hart, Everwind Fuels. And Amanda Hallen, AA Monroe. And ex officiato members, Tanya McChesney, Inrich CBDC. Karen Malcolm, ACOA, Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. And Wanda McLean, NSBI or Nova Scotia Business Inc.
With a new executive director, a new executive, and a new board of directors in place, it was time for the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce to hand out some hardware.
The Strait Area Chamber of Commerce is pleased to present the Nova Scotia Community College Leadership Award. And I just want to say how important NSCC has become to this community. It really, I can remember days when we were really concerned about industry and recognizing that one of the new industries was learning, and the number of people that come to this community to get their education. This award was created to support and encourage leadership and community involvement among students at the Strait Area campus, and includes a $500 bursary from the Chamber to a returning student to our local campus. This year's recipient is Boyd McIntyre. Boyd is a second-year marine engineering student. He is a dedicated student and passionate about his community. Boyd is unable to attend this evening as he is on sea placement. He did send along a note saying this award will help him with his tuition costs, which will allow him to complete the Marine Engineering Diploma program, and he feels very fortunate to have been selected for the award and really appreciates the support. Congratulations, Boyd.
The winner of the 2023 Chamber of Commerce President's Award was a past Chamber President who is also a familiar face to many people around the Strait Area, especially those who are radio listeners. Bob McCachran and his wife Brenda ran 101.5 The Hawk FM and its predecessor CIGO 1410 AM from 1993 until the couple sold the station to Acadia Broadcasting in 2019. McCachran was also noted for his heavy community involvement as he received the President's Award at the Spring Dinner and Awards Gala for the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce.
Bob McCachran has been a tremendous supporter of the Chamber for many years. He has past president and continued to remain active, supporting the Chamber in many capacities. He is a wealth of information on Chamber history. My God, that makes you sound old, Bob. He has consistently remained on the HR committee, being a tremendous asset with hiring, and is always available to lend a hand when asked. We greatly appreciate Bob's support. If there's one word to sum up Bob McCachran, it's reliable. When Bob is asked to help, he's always willing to lend that extra hand. So it's my honor to present the President's Award to a past president and a constant presence with the Chamber, Bob McCachran.
Bob McCachran was one of 2 award winners on this night who were uncharacteristically quiet and didn't make acceptance speeches. The other is a longtime fixture for the town of Port Hawkesbury, Paula Davis, who was the head of marketing, recreation, tourism, and culture for the town for many years and had her hand in several high-profile events that have come not only here to the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre, but also around the town of Port Hawkesbury over the past 40 years.
The opportunity to program facilities in the town, such as Granville Green, the Shannon Studio, and the Sarek Auditorium, and to partner with the business community to secure larger events, made it much more attractive for artists to perform in Port Hawkesbury rather than traveling past its doors on their way to much larger centres. Programming and promotion of the arts were also made possible by the town of Port Hawkesbury's support and genuine interest in growing the creative economy. Paula's years of participation on provincial and national cultural committees provided new opportunities for festivals and events in the town, such as the Florida Panthers training camp. And they just might go all the way this year, Paula Davis. I don't know if you regret that as a long-suffering Leafs fan. But the Meghan Trainor concert, the Grand Slam of Curling, and Celtic Colours. In the words of the town of Port Hawkesbury CAO Terry Doyle, Paula is one of the most respected administrators in the province of Nova Scotia, and she has a special gift for creating successful partnerships for so many efforts, and she certainly defines the term pride of place. Paula presently serves on several boards and committees, including the Cape Breton Centre for Craft and Design, the J. Franklin Wright Art Gallery Committee, and can I just say, my kids that would come in here to dance or to play hockey got to see art because of the work of Paula Davis. The Nova Scotia Trails Association, the Port Hawkesbury Sports Wall of Fame, the Port Hawkesbury Literacy Council, and the Port Hawkesbury Waterfront Committee. Bob McCachran summed it up well when he replied to the Chamber's announcement of Paula winning the award with this statement: "You've been the pulse of culture in Port Hawkesbury for decades, and your dedication for developing the sector across Cape Breton Island is well known. This was more than a job for you, most definitely a passion. The Chamber and the town of Port Hawkesbury would like to thank you for this passion."
Next up on the Chamber Awards dinner for the Kevin Beaton Heart of the Community Award was a longtime dance and culture instructor who has taught many young people and children the joy of dance. Michelle Greenwell of Mabu was the winner of the Heart of the Community Award, as presented at the Chamber's Awards dinner on Wednesday evening at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre.
Dr. Michelle Greenwell has been a permanent part of Cape Breton Island since 2010, although she began volunteering and supporting the community as early as 1997 with her first dance company tour to perform in the area. Her long-standing love of dance and music, especially Celtic, has provided her with the skills and passion to be involved in fundraising for Make-A-Wish Foundation, for special events, for collaborative programs, and sharing more about Cape Breton Island. For almost a decade, she helped Celtic Colours with stage managing shows for the festival with her husband David. Michelle's Tai Chi Cape Breton classes have been a part of our community from Harvard-Boucher, Port Hawkesbury up Route 19 to as far as Cheticamp for almost 12 years. As a volunteer instructor and organizer, she has contributed over 8 hours a week to promote health and wellness through Tai Chi, including a complete video series available for free on her YouTube channel. Michelle has contributed to health fairs, wellness presentations, the Chamber's Femme Power, women's leadership events, and more, always with the ambition of supporting others to have wellness tools at their fingertips. Owner of Dance Debut for over 36 years and the Cape Breton Tea Company, she uses her business opportunities to help others with fundraising, well-being, and mentoring. Michelle's ambition to serve the community with her skills and expertise leads the way for others to collaborate and connect to help build more with the heart of the community in mind.
I know you've been sitting there a long time, and probably the best way that I can share what I really like people to know about themselves and about their well-being is that you have the opportunity to help yourself all the way along. So what I encourage you to do right now is to turn your head and look to the person on your right and see how far you can see. Now I'd like you to turn to the left, see how far you can see. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is take your hand up to your ear, give a little rub from the top to the bottom. And this is going to help you later on when you're socializing because it helps you to be able to hear the person beside you when it gets really noisy in the room. Go to the other side, give a little rub. So the reason I'm doing this is I want you to remember that you have the opportunity for your own self-care all the time, and you don't need me in a location somewhere on the island sharing that with you because you can do it. But it's very simple. So now turn to the right. See how many more people you can see. And then turn to the left and notice how much easier it is to see. Does that neck feel a little bit different? A little bit, huh? All right, so the tools are very simple, and what it all comes down to is thinking about how you want to share with your community is how can you help, and you can help in very small ways with very simple tools. And you can make such a huge impact by just sharing one tool at a time. So you now know the secret for the ear to be able to open up that neck, have a little bit more vision, have a little bit more opportunity, and you can share that with someone who has little neck pain, too much time at the computer, and maybe they can't hear so well in the room when there's a lot of noise going on, and now they can hear a little bit better. Thank you so much. I appreciate the ward, and I wish you the very best as you search for your own wellness. Take care.
The last award of the evening for the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce Spring Dinner and Awards Gala was presented to the recipient of the Jack Hartery Lifetime Achievement Award. Hartery is the former development manager for Stora Enso, as it was known at the time. He retired in 2001 and passed away just a couple of years later, but Jack Hartery's legacy is still felt in many parts of the Strait region and its economic development sector.
He was very dedicated to his employees, a master at getting all members of his team working together because first and foremost, he was a people person. He retired in 2001 as president and general manager of the Stora Enso Port Hawkesbury Limited. Jack, as he liked to be called, was a big believer in supporting his community and shopping local. Stora, under his leadership, was active in supporting many community events like the Stora Minor Hockey Tournament, which I think will be the longest running minor hockey tournament in the province pretty soon, as well as other organizations and events. Demonstrating every day the true linkages between hard work, commitment, and the community, the 2023 award winner truly exemplifies the celebrated spirit of Jack Hartery and the award named in his honor.
The recipient of the 2023 Jack Hartery Lifetime Achievement Award from the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce was Gino Poligato, a Richmond County businessman who started with a single truck in 1978, but has worked a lifetime to put down roots in the community over the following 35 years. However, he as well was uncharacteristically shy for an award recipient from the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce, and so it was up to Poligato's sister Gina to tell his story.
He is proud and honored to be this year's recipient of the Jack Hartery Lifetime Achievement Award. He's fully aware of the influence that Jack Hartery had on the success of the paper mill and the resulting impact on the communities and the people's lives in the Strait area. He'd like to thank Brian Bona of Strait Supplies for nominating him for this prestigious award, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for this honor. Our mother knew Gino was destined to be a trucker at an early age. When he was an elementary student in Marion Bridge, he took his milk money and he traded it for a little toy truck. And He missed the bus one day coming from school, and of course my mother was surprised to see him being dropped off by an unknown dump truck driver to the house. So those were clear signs that he was into the trucks at an early age. I remember him taking apart a Ford pickup truck and rebuilding it. Took it all apart, rebuilt it, and he still thinks Ford trucks should be rebuilt. Sorry, all you Ford people. He's going to kill me for that one. Gino started his business. He actually had 2 trucks before 1978. But in 1978, he went out on a limb and bought a pulp contract, which included 2 trucks and 2 loaders. A friend had code signed for a loan for him, and he only owned $5,000 of his own that he had saved. And then the previous owner of the contract held the rest of the money, and he paid monthly for it. So that's how he got going out on that limb. And then our father joined him in the business in 1982, 83 for a few short years. And then in 91, he expanded and added Richmond Sand and Gravel to the business and started doing excavating work. And in 2012, he added the scrap business called Lennox Passage Recovery and Recycling. And it all sounds so easy, but there were and still are many lean years. Any business owner can verify the struggles, but he worked hard and stuck with it. And anyone who knows Gino knows exactly how hard he works and how tough he is. He doesn't work a 9-to-5 job, it's more like a 24/7 job. Even with a disc problem in his back, he gets up earlier than most and hobbles from the house to the garage to start a day with a smile on his face. One day, I heard a racket coming from the garage. I go out to see what the story is, and a jack had slipped out from one of the truck motors. And Gino's 2 fingers were caught under the motor. So he's given instructions to the guys himself on how to get this motor lifted back up. He gets it up, and his 2 fingernails are falling off, so he pulls them off. Walks over to the house, hose, and we're trying to say, you gotta go to the hospital. Now he walks over to the house, gets the hose out, gives them a wash. Meanwhile, one of the workers, is throwing up at the side of the garage after seeing his fingers. He went to the hospital, and of course they want to put him in a wheelchair, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with my legs, it's my fingers that hurt. They wanted to cut one of the fingers off, and he said, no, just push them together, fluff them up, wrap them up, and of course, that's what they do, and away he goes back to work again. Another day, he came home with a big gash at the back of his head, and he got 18 stitches. And again, to the hospital, got stitched up, and back to work again. No rest. And in his humorous fashion, he said, it ruined my perfectly good head. Gino is a compassionate person. When Gino was a toddler, he may kill me for this too, he had our mother put a splint on a mouse's broken leg. So it's no surprise that he has hired many young people over the years and given them a chance when others would not. In Brian Bona's words, he has been very instrumental in hiring young people over the years so that they can gain experience for their future. Gino is also a very generous man. He has always been proud to work and live in Cape Breton. To him, there is no better place in the world. He has donated to many charities over the years and has supported many businesses along the way. Gino is always willing to help someone in need. Many years ago, a person ran out of gas. We had just moved to Louisdale, and we had lived in the older house there. At 3 a.m, this person knocks on the door looking for gas because someone said, Gino's the guy to help you out. So Gino goes out and gets some gas, and when he sees that the guy has a Volkswagen Rabbit, he says, again in his humorous fashion, if I hadn't known you had a rabbit, I would have brought out a bag of carrots. And Gino has not forgotten how he got started, right, with a friend co-signing on a loan for him, and he has paid it forward by co-signing for other people to get their business started. A lot of young people who have gotten a start with Gino and left to go work out west can count on him for a ride from the airport when they come home. Many of these workers call him quite often for advice on some important life decisions they have to make, or even just to say hello. He is always assuring them that there is a paycheck waiting for them if things don't work out. Again, on behalf of my brother and his dedicated staff, Gino is honored to be this year's recipient of the Jack Hartery Lifetime Achievement Award.
Following this tribute from his sister Gina, Lifetime Achievement Award winner Gino Poligato received a warm standing ovation from those in attendance at the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce Spring Dinner and Gala. And so, as the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce wound down its annual Spring Dinner and Gala at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre's Bearhead Conference Room, saluting several familiar faces, but also welcoming new leadership, it seems that the business community here in the Strait of Canso is ready to march on from the depths of the pandemic, return to their former heights, and be able to welcome new customers and new opportunities as the summer and the fall roll on here in the Strait. Regular Tellil viewers might remember that back at the April regular meeting of Richmond Municipal Council, councillors voted 3-1 to send a proposed Arishat sidewalk extension to Council's budget talks. Now, some might think that that means the project is immediately going ahead, but at that time, it seemed like the project, which had risen in cost from $155,000 to $277,000, would have to be put on hold until the next budget was passed. However, it looks like there could be a turnaround on that. The Conseil scolaire acadien provincial, the Francophone School Board governing École Beau-Port, has just received new correspondence from Warden Amanda Mombourquette requesting that the Conseil scolaire acadien provincial consider cost-sharing the price tag for the sidewalk extension with the municipality. So, how is all this going? Let's take you to the May 23rd regular meeting of Richmond Municipal Council to find out.
The committee discussed the Arishat pedestrian sidewalk project. The committee of the whole unanimously agreed to recommend to council to defer the Arishat pedestrian sidewalk project to budget deliberations.
Well, honestly, we'd like to give it a couple of days to see if the board is able to make any kind of movement on it. And I know that the CSAP is, it's like any school system. There are funders that contribute to it. The province of Nova Scotia, of course, being one. They have certain budgets that are probably already set. But, in our letter to them, what we suggested was that if they could participate, we would really appreciate that, because the amount of use that, the students and the parents and the school buses and, all of the visitors to the school, it's quite a lot of use on this little private road. And so we're hopeful that they can participate financially. But at the end of the day, our priority needs to be on the safety of people, moving on, pedestrians, especially moving back and forth from the highway to this building and to the school building. So, that's why I was really clear in the letter to the board president that there are three options here. We have a sidewalk component, we have a paving and sidewalk component on the entrance side, and then we also have an exit, paving exit component. And so it's almost like a menu that we'll be able to pick and choose from. I wouldn't say, from our council discussions at this stage of the game, no one seems to be against this. We are just very interested in making sure that we make the best use of our taxpayers' dollars as well, right? So the Canada Community Building Fund is the fund that we would use to access, money to be able to pay for these types of projects. We have a couple of $1 million sitting in, in a reserve there of those monies. At the end of the day, we have more than triple that in infrastructure projects that we know need to happen in this county in the next, 3 to 5 years. So although it may look like we're sitting on all kinds of money, it's money that's going to be tightly stretched. So we need to make the best use of those dollars while also keeping that safety and accessibility priority as well. So we'll see what happens in the next few days. At the end of the day, it's like I said, we love having our as CSAP as neighbors to us here at the municipal office, and just hoping that we can find a path forward together on this one.
One quick follow-up on that. I do know that at one of the earlier regular meetings, there was discussion regarding this issue, and, she's not here, she can't speak for herself, but Councillor Melanie Sampson made the point that it could still be referred to budget talks, yes, even though it might not get a decision to go ahead during the coming budget year. Yes. council voted to defer it to that June 1 meeting, and it looks like that's still where it's going to be right now. So is there anything that you can give me in terms of a picture of what it would take to be able to advance the project this year? Is it still looking like it'll just go ahead next year? What do you think?
Well, you know what? I think that's up in the air. I think, if council decided that the project was too much for the current fiscal year, then we would certainly want to be working with the CSAP on other safety mitigations, maybe some other options, right? Signage, whatever the case may be. But if council decides that, they may decide that we'll go ahead with at least a component of it this year and look at a different component next, So it really just depends on the discussion at council. And like I said, if we do get a response in the next few days. So, I wouldn't suggest there's any lack of commitment to the idea of making these improvements. We all agree that, that it is a good idea to do it, but just how we get there, and hopefully the quicker we get there, the better. So.
Before May 23rd's regular meeting, the last time Richmond Council met for Committee of the Whole on May the 9th, something unusual happened at the meeting-ending question period. Originally slated to go 15 minutes and not having to deal with any items that were specifically on the agenda, the question period wound up going 40 minutes with only 2 of 4 potential question askers being able to ask their questions, and one of those 2 taking special time to make a presentation on behalf of her group's concerns. So that brought some concerns forward at the latest regular council meeting from District 2 Councillor Michael Digdon, who says that this has been a pattern in recent question periods for both Committee of the Whole and for regular council.
In the past, we've ran into, several proceedings or several of our meetings where our question period became more of a presentation than a question period. So I think, I just like to see that it goes back to where it was. So I think in the past, we brought question period back because we felt there was a necessity to hear from the public and to get the questions. And I think it's probably one of the best things we did bring back was question period. However, I also feel that we have to be a little bit more stringent on the on how question period is ran. So I'd like to see a little bit more, I guess, protocols or parameters around question period. I know last week we had question period and we managed to get, 2 participants. However, there was still participants in the rest of the galley that had questions but didn't get to ask them. So that was a little bit concerning for me that we actually had people left, and because the question period, the time was used up, we didn't get to hear from the rest of the public.
Okay. So one thing I noted regarding question period is we have some details that we always publish at the bottom of our agenda. So in addition to what you're talking about, one of the details that we don't have listed is that you need to identify yourself, which is great when we're all here in person in the gallery, but now that we're offering for questions coming on the phone, we may want to add that, Shelley, to our instructions for question period, because I think we need to know who we're talking to, right? When people are calling in. Great point. So
Well, and I think to that point, we also have to be diligent in the fact that, if the gallery is full of people, it is question period, so it's not presentation period. So, and it's not to be rude to anybody here or anybody coming for question period, but I think it's rude of us not to give the opportunity to somebody who sat through question period and didn't even get a chance, or traveled from Foreshore or Framboys and didn't even get a chance to ask a question, is more rude than, so I think we have to go back to the basis of, state your name and your question.
right, okay.
So my thoughts on this were, I was thinking about this after. Possibly like if we thought about how the province used to deal with these on the, I'm thinking of COVID briefings and so on. I know that was different dealing with the media and so on, but oftentimes it was one question, one follow-up. Because otherwise, for exactly that reason, you could have other people that may not step forward until the chair is emptied, and if the chair is never emptied, then they won't step forward at all. So, if there was an appetite to limit to one question, one follow-up, then it may allow the opportunity for more people to come forward.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea.
I don't know that I'm not comfortable with the one question, one follow-up.
Right.
I think then we're really limiting people to pick your 2 out of your 5 great questions you may have. And again, people who are traveling, and it doesn't really matter, I guess, whether you're traveling from afar or not. You know, we are here to answer all the public's questions. You know, in saying that, I think anybody definitely should be able to reach out to their counselor and get the same answers, whether it's during a meeting or not. If not, I know my constituents can reach out to me, and then I definitely provide them with the information within a day or so. So I don't know that I'd limit it to 1 or 2. However, I do feel that we do have to put a limit. So maybe if you can, however many questions you can ask in a 4-minute period or a 3-minute period, and if you're the only person in the galley, then I don't know that that's even an issue, that we give them 2 questions. But I just feel that we have to be able to accommodate everybody that's here, and I felt that we dropped the ball last week.
Yeah. So we could ask folks to identify themselves if they think they might have a question, or put their hands, maybe we could do a show of hands. But I am kind of recognizing we are missing 2 of our counselors here, and we're talking about a bit of a procedural item. Would you guys be okay with us maybe regrouping, you know, getting some feedback from those 2 counselors as well, and then we could come back?
Yeah, I agree. It's not something that...
With a recommendation. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
The last question period for Committee of the Whole did go quite a ways, and one of the 2 questioners veered into presentation territory as opposed to simple question and follow-up territory. So I just wonder, as warden and as the chair of these meetings, how do you feel it should be approached from here on in? Do you put that responsibility on yourself? Do you put that responsibility on the questioners or staff in terms of getting information out on how the question period is run? Basically, who calls the shots here?
Yeah, so, you know, question period's a funny thing. We were all, I think, as new counselors, absolutely wanting to put question period back on the agenda. None of us have wavered from that, and I think it's one of the best decisions that we've made, because you could see the impact of it here this evening. You could see the impact of it, you know, at the last Committee of the Whole. You get members of the public in the room, and it stimulates this discussion and ensures that we are getting all kinds of different perspectives. I think it's really, really important. That being said, there's a fairness issue in my mind as well, right? So we had 2 presenters at our last Committee of the Whole, and they waited for their turn to be able to present. We do a maximum of 2 presentations at each Committee of the Whole, because it just the meetings will go on until, you know, until the wee hours if we don't limit it. And so they waited their turn, and then they had the opportunity to present, and it actually worked out great for them, because there was a gallery full of people here watching and listening and learning from the information they were presenting. So, you know, so Councillor Digdon's point about making sure that it isn't, you know, that it does remain a question period and that doesn't become a place for presentations. I think, to me, there's a bit of a fairness issue on it, because we have to respect, you know, the process and those who waited their turn. So that being said, we also recognize, though, that sometimes there's going to be hot button topics that come up in the community, and it fills our gallery. And you know, I will say I'm probably I'm a big fan of the time limits and how we've kind of worked on question period. But when you have that many people in the room, and you know that the majority of them are here to listen about one issue, I think, you know, we also have to give ourselves some leeway as a council to give a little extra time and space. So really, I think at the end of the day, Adam, there's a happy medium in there, and as long as everybody respects the process and is respectful in how they conduct themselves at the table, that's the best this council can ask for. It's certainly the best I could ask for as chairperson, and you know, like I said, it's wonderful when the gallery is filled, because even if you're here for one particular purpose, you get to hear about so many other things, and it prompts questions from all sides. So I think it's doing its job, I guess, is my answer. And you know, we'll see what comes out of the suggested changes. And I will say, you know, this is not the first time we've reviewed question period. We've reviewed how we do it in the past, and we're going to probably continue to review it, because there's always room for improvement, I think, you know, so.
final comment on that. With another big crowd in here tonight and with multiple people asking questions during question period, things were fairly orderly, even a little bit of applause from the crowd at one point for the letter going forward from Pondville Beach. So your thoughts on just a good flow to the meeting tonight?
Yeah, no, I think it went really well. We didn't have too much action at our first question period. As you know, we do question period in 2 sections now for our regular council. But certainly at the end, it gave people an opportunity to ask questions, and it was really great. And folks in the gallery, when one person put their hand up, and it does create an orderly flow. So maybe we need to look at some procedures like that. But I really thought this evening's meeting went really well. I'll tell you, it was a little bit, a little bit.
Disconcerting?
Well, no, just with so few councillors here, right? So there's just the 3 of us here. We're very used to a full quorum of 5, right?
And missing the CAO.
And missing the CAO. There's been some illness in our community, so and I myself am just getting over a little something. So we're doing the best we can with the resources we have, and hopefully we'll all get past this season of illness and get back in the game.
And there you have it. That wraps up this week's edition of Roundtable here on Tellil Community Television. Thank you for tuning in, and a special thanks to Richmond Warden Amanda Mombourquette for answering my questions following the May 23rd regular council meeting at the Richmond Municipal Building in Arishat. If you have any thoughts about what you've seen over the past hour here on Roundtable, or you'd just like to make suggestions for a future episode, I'd love to hear them. You can contact me directly. My phone number is 902-625-8863, and you can email me using the address adamjrcook, cook with an E, @gmail.com. You can also contact Tellil Community Television directly with your ideas and your comments. The station phone number in Arishat is 902-226-1928, and the best email address to use is tellil@tellil.tv. As always, you can follow Tellil on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and our YouTube channel features every single episode of Roundtable, including this one, as well as individual interviews, segments, and panel discussions from our shows. And you can also find the same service available for every episode of our sister program, Tellil 24/7, and several new programs that my colleagues at Tellil have been putting together just for you. For now, I'm Adam Cook. Thank you once again for joining me on Roundtable here on Tellil Community Television. I look forward to seeing you again next week with a brand new show. Bye for now.